Hello there, welcome to the Alpha Angler channel, and I'm Jake Boomer, El Presidente, MPFL Pro. I am now fishing Wild West Pro-Ams on the West Coast, and I am the president of Alpha Angler. Today's video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into depth on a few new secret baits. Some rod specifics that I think have really helped, that I've learned from the pros and Paul and Nick and guys like that, that I think have really helped me in my tournament fishing. To also go through some different spots and ways that I broke down spots for the Clear Lake Wild West that I did last week. I got 26 out, I think, of 143 boats, and I only had a day and a half of practice, so I really had to break that down. So I want to go through a bunch of this stuff. I want to show you those areas on Clear. I want to show you a couple sneaky baits that they're both, two of them are really new. They're really good, and show you the A-rig that I used to catch some of the other ones. But I know there's going to be quite a bit of information in this. So what I'm going to do for the first time is we're going to put right here the table of contents for this video. So if you really don't care about sneaky baits, you could just scroll on down to the Clear Lake areas that I used and the patterns that we used, or you can scroll on down and I'll talk about some tournament stuff that I think is important. Wild West and MPFL are the two circuits that I chose this year. Being a West Coast angler and traveling across the country all the time to fish the MPFL, the National Professional Fishing League, it's created some different hurdles to get over. And I think it's important to talk about what those tournaments are doing for our industry and why they're important. I think those types of things are big deal. But Clear Lake, I got down to Clear Lake with a day and a half of practice. That's all I got. Hadn't been there in 2 years, and it's a really heavily pressured lake. So I really wasn't able to kind of go look at everything and then try to decide what I wanted to do. I really had to go fishing, find fish, and then kind of expand upon that one area. And you'll see in the video, I'm going to kind of record a little bit here, and I'll switch back and forth. Some of the areas that I used and what I was looking for and why it worked. But the main area I was using was right up on the north side, like literally a mile or two from the launch of the tournament, which is great because gas prices are horrific right now. And I caught 17 and a half pounds the first day, and the vast majority of it I caught on the A-rig. So this is just a Umbrella Junior. Flash Mob Junior is what it's called. And I throw this on 20-pound P line on the Wide Glide. The Wide Glide, excuse me. The Wide Glide we originally developed for, Brandon's Arashi Glide, which is a really cool bait. But we found that this 7.9 heavy, it's got a parabolic action, can do a lot of things. It's an awesome A-rig rod. And so you can see in this A-rig, hopefully that zooms in, that there's grass all over the bait. So the way I set it up real quick is I use 20-pound P line, 100% fluorocarbon. I'm using my A-rig reel, which is a Lew's Tournament Pro that I don't think they even make anymore, and I just can't destroy it. So I love it. It's a 6.4 to 1, 6.3 to 1. It's perfect for the rig. But the trick was, those fish at Clear Lake, they eat hitch. And I would throw this A-rig, it's a pretty light A-rig, 1/8 ounce heads with a 3/8 on the bottom and then 3/3 on the top. I would throw this A-rig in like 3 feet of water, but way off the bank, 100 yards off the bank. Those fish were relating to grass that was growing up in Clear Lake that was fresh new grass, but it was growing through old dead grass. And it was really hard to tell the difference. Like, I wish I could have graphed around and found where the good grass was so that I could fish just those areas. But because I don't have a lot of experience there and know where like the primrose grows and things like that, I haven't been there in 2 years, like I said, I had to just cast around. I had to get back off the bank and just cast around, and I'd find these fish in groups. And the crazy thing is they'd eat this A-rig when it was on the bottom, which is, that makes sense. Everybody throws an A-rig, they like it close to the bottom. But I'm dragging it through grass. You can see the grass left over on some of these A-rig arms. It's all stuck to my shirt now. I was constantly cleaning the grass off these A-rig heads. You can see how beat up these baits are. But when I caught a fish on this setup, they always ate the bottom bait. And I actually called Paul and Nick and said, that's the craziest thing ever. This thing's coming through grass. It's covered in grass. Normally, if you've got grass on a bait, you just reel it in and clean it off because they're not going to eat it. But I would drag this A-rig through the grass, and I chop the throttle once in a while. We call it chopping the throttle so that it fluctuates. But they always ate the bottom baits, which meant they were going into the grass to get the bait. And Brandon's like, well, maybe those hitch when they see a bass, dive into the dead grass. And that's what those fish were doing. They were rooting them out of the grass. But Clear Lake is a weird lake in that a lot of the baits that you throw there, you almost always drag them on the bottom. Even those guys that are throwing underspins, they drag them through the grass and on the bottom. And that'll bring my first sneaky squirrel bait up, because it's weird the way I had to do it, but this bait is a new bait from first gen that helped me catch a lot of fish, especially when they got pressured. So anyways, the A-Rig. This is an A-Rig holster that the Bass Tank. Check it out on the basstank.com. I think they're like 19 bucks. It's amazing. It will save your life. You know how when you open your rod locker and your A-Rig is now stuck in every one of your rod socks. It's bundled, it's come undone, and pretty much when you grab your A-Rig rod, you get every rod in the rod locker. If you get one of these, they just pop onto your rod, that'll go away. So I would just pop it on when I traveled and throw this in my pocket, and then when I was done fishing, I'd pop it back on and A-Rig. All right, so sneaky squirrel bait number 1. This is a new bait. I think Tackle Warehouse says it's coming out April 1st. And hopefully you guys can see this. I'll show you an up close. It is called the Topspin. It's got a flexible wire on top with a little blade. And then it's got an awesome, this one I think is a 4/0 hook on a 3/8 ounce head. It's a beef hook. It's a beefy hook. And the deal with this was when they wouldn't eat the A-Rig, or if those fish would push up on the bank real shallow in the morning, which is what they did. I don't know if, like I said, I don't know enough about Clear Lake, but I feel like the bait gets shallow at night, and those fish go up on the bank and feed on them. And the fish would actually come off the bank if a boat went by. So I'd be fishing, and if a boat went by, I'd actually get in behind the boat going down the bank, 300 yards off the bank or 200 yards, and get behind them and throw, because I feel like as boats go down the bank on that place, it gets so much pressure. Those fish actually back off and kind of hang out in that dead grass or some of that new grass. So with this bait, in the mornings, I could throw it shallow along the rocks and drag it along the bottom. And they just ate the crap out of it. I caught my second day limit in 10 minutes on this very bait. You can see all the teeth marks in it. And you literally drag it on the bottom, and they were so finicky. You drag it on the bottom and you stop it, and you pop it just a little bit, and you just pop it off a rock or whatever, you pop it out of the grass, and it never went back to the bottom. That's the only way you knew how to bite. So this Topspin is going to be a huge player, and there's three main reasons that this is gonna be a big bait. I almost want to keep it a secret, but I can't keep doing that. The way they did the line tie at a 90 degree, this bait didn't ball up with grass like an underspin would. My co-anglers had underspins, they were covered in grass, and this bait, that 90 degree line tie, would just pull right through the grass. It was always clean. So I felt like I got more bites that way. The second reason it's awesome is this little hook, the Topspin wire guard keeps the grass from getting on the hook. And the third reason it's awesome is this hook it's got meat to it. And so you can catch, Clear Lake has big fish. They're in shallow water. They're mean as all get out. This hook didn't bend out. And normally when I throw like an underspin or a Topspin like this, I would use the clutch, which is our 7.5 medium. You put 10 or 12 pound test on it and you reel an underspin around in clear water for spots and largemouth, sometimes smallies. In this situation though, I did not do that because I was using 15 pound test and I was fishing very, very shallow water, and there was a little bit more cover in the water that those fish could get onto. So the other reason I didn't use the clutch and used a Zilla instead, which this is our 7.3 medium heavy Zilla, is more power, right? 15 pound test, I just needed a heavier rod to move those fish. But we developed the Zilla to be your do-all rod, and it goes back to the Rick Clunn theory that he wrote years ago about a Bass Pro rod that he had. It was a 7 foot heavy, and he did everything he could with it. He square billed with it, he spinner baited, jigs, all that stuff. And the thought process behind it was, if when you lean down to grab a different bait, the only thing that changes is the bait, then this rod becomes kind of an extension of your arm. So we made the Zilla, we designed the Zilla to be this do-all rod that could do so many things really well. Sensitive, great bend, the right amount of power, that your body gets so used to what this rod is telling you. So if you get a bite that's just different, you're so used to it that the only thing that changes when I pick up a Zilla is the bait. And the idea behind that is in tough fisheries or in environments I'm not used to, for instance, that dead grass with the new grass in it, I still know what this rod feels like when the weight of the bait goes away. So for instance, I'd pop it off the grass or whatever, and the bait and the weight would go away. I knew what that felt like because I use this rod all the time. I carry 5 or 6 of these in my boat, and it's kind of that, it can do anything, 12 pound to 20 pound test, the Zilla, and we've really, really refined the balance and the sensitivity. But I'm telling you, it's an extension of my arm when I'm fishing. If you have 5 or 6 different rods, manufacturers, tapers, materials especially, and you're doing a lot of the same type of fishing, the bottom contact or reeling something through the bottom, or even biffle bugging, for instance, a great example. All those rods are going to have a little bit different feel to them. They're going to have a different taper, a different material makeup. They're going to have different handles. Your body has to remember how that particular rod feels when that rod gets a bite. If you can get down to the point that when a bait change happens, you know what it feels like, when a bite happens and you know what it feels like, you're going to catch more fish. Sneaky squirrel bait number 2. I found the fish that I fished for in that tournament with chatterbait. I was covering water one morning, up shallow in the rocks, throwing, I just throw this thunder cricket. I really like the thunder crickets. I've had a ton of luck. I've said it a few times before, throwing the Jaboom baits BeaverBallz as the trailer. And if you remember when Brett Hite won all those tournaments in early 2010 area, he was throwing a bait with a flat tail on the back. It's called the Lake Fork Magic Swimmer, I believe. And it had a flat tail and it had a lot of bulk to it. And the idea behind this type of a bait is, if you look, this bait is flat. It's got 2 legs that are flat. And then it has these little appendages, the ball side of them, that kick when it moves around. But I want the flat profile. I want the bait to glide. Nothing in nature just goes straight down head first like a rock. You know, like if this thing is mimicking, say, a perch or a crappie or something like that, and it's coming through the water and it bumps off of something, if it just goes straight down and it doesn't glide through the water, I feel like you get less bites. So I found those fish with this chatterbait using a BeaverBallz. I think this is a 3/8 thunder cricket. I was throwing it on the rebound. I'm kind of a rebound guy for chatterbaits in the spring because I feel like they eat it so slow and they kind of come at it and they don't really fully commit to it. I really want to set that hook slowly. I want a slow reaction to it. So this is just a rebound, 15-pound P-line test, BeaverBallz. That is secret bait number 1. But at the end of day 2, I had a 2 and I think a 2 1/4. I culled it out with a 3 3/4, punching a black blue BeaverBallz. And this bait is so crazy. It's designed with horizontal ribs in it. They run this way. Most baits, they put the ribs to run this way so that it displaces water. But the downside to that is it gets hung up going through cover. And I found a trash mat and I was actually punching through it. This bait was designed by a Louisiana punching machine, Jeremy Norris, when he designed this company. And it comes through the cover quickly. It creates that reaction bite. I did keep this bait a secret last year. I asked Jeremy if I could keep it a secret for at least a year. And he said that after his anglers had won over $100,000 on the bait, that it had to come out. So, all right, so here's Clear Lake. A lot of people have been there. It's one of the most popular lakes on the planet. We went out of Lakeport. We launched right here at Library Park. I literally fished most of the tournament right here in this Rumsey Bay area. Pretty much, I fished this flat from where it says grass there back down to pretty much take off, to the off limits and way out off the bank. I mean, even off of Rumsey Bay here, right here in the middle, you're only in 3-4 feet of water. The water's so low. I found those fish, though, fishing this rock break right here. And it's a rock break. This is obviously a little spawning pocket. Those fish would actually spawn on the rock, I think. Some of those morning fish we were catching were bucks that were trying to get on the bed, but the water was like 56 or 7. But literally, if, say, you had a boat going down this bank like this as this weekend went on and he was just fishing, he was fishing the bank, I'd literally start out here, 200-300 yards behind him, and cast behind him. I'd let him work down the bank, and I'd follow him like 100 yards behind him, but 200-300 yards out off the bank, because I swear those fish get so pressured it just pushes them out. And you could actually get a guy that was beating the bank going down the docks, and you could actually come out and fish some of this stuff, and you'd run into those. I think it was fish that came off the bank. So this was the section that I used. And it has a little bit dirtier water. The other areas that I really liked is this is what they call state park area. All of these points. There was a tournament I fished years ago. They got one off of this Adobe point. Guys just sit there and cast at it. I can't do it. I'd go crazy. But all of these pockets, as they had grass in them, here's a great example of one. This is a really good rock point right here. But this scattered grass that you can see out in the middle here, you can't really see it on your 360. And I didn't really look for it as much, but I was really trying to just isolate and hunt in areas that had grass like that so that I could find those fish that were kind of staging up and moving in and out. And that's how I caught them on the Topspin and the A-rig. But anyways, not super secret stuff, but that's the way I'd chase them down there at Clear Lake. Tournament stuff that I think is important. Wild West and MPFL are the two circuits that I chose this year. Being a West Coast angler and traveling across the country all the time to fish the MPFL, the National Professional Fishing League, it's created some different hurdles to get over. And I think it's important to talk about what those tournaments are doing for our industry and why they're important. I think those types of things are big deal. So I chose this year to fish the Wild West Pro-Am Series because it would allow me to qualify for the Wild West Shootout, which Rick Pierce of Bass Cat Boats, along with every Western tournament circuit, has got on board to create the West Coast Shootout. It would be the Bassmaster Classic of the West Coast. And they're going to use different qualification ways to get into this classic, and they're going to take 50 of the best West Coast guys and have this amazing tournament next year. Being a West Coast angler, wanting to represent my roots where I came from in tournament fishing, I had to sign up. So that's the route I'm trying to go with them. Fishing bodies of water that I don't generally have a lot of great success in. Shasta, Clear Lake is another one in the California Delta. But Wild West as a brand has also come up to the Columbia River. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Well, the Columbia River being my home water, obviously super awesome. But what it's providing for us West Coast guys is traveling across the country is so expensive and so hard to do. They've created a high-level tournament organization for us West Coast guys. It's awesome. Man, I hope you guys dig this stuff. I like to go into detail about this stuff. I want to be a student of the game. I study every little tiny piece, and all of the information I get back from you guys, talking to the pros, talking to this crazy journey across the country to go tournament fishing, all of that feedback goes into these rods. That's the point. That's what we're doing. And I'll give you a little sneak peek. I love the Zilla, but a couple customers challenged us to make limited edition Zilla on steroids, and that's coming next week. You'll stay tuned, and you guys will get to meet the Vader. And we're working on it right now. I got a couple guys trying to break them to make sure that the design is perfect so far. They've been flawless. So, thanks for watching. You guys subscribe to the channel. God bless you. I'll talk to you later.